On November 21st, 2016, a whole fleet of news helicopters from around the world took to the skies over the Panama Canal. Their mission was important and historic, to capture the moment when one of the most modern combat ships of the United States of America, the USS Zumwalt destroyer, passed through the waters of this legendary canal. This ship, valued at $4,400,000,000, exceeded in price even some nuclear aircraft carriers. It was majestic and imposing. Its displacement was about 15,000 tons, and its length exceeded 610 feet. Such a vessel was designed to strike targets located beyond borders, up to 100 miles inland. Its unique electric engine, revolutionary for its time, powered weapons that did not even exist in reality yet. Everything on this ship seemed innovative and advanced, from the electrical system to the armament. However, just 5 weeks after officially entering service, the USS Zumwalt found itself in an unusual situation. It could not move. A serious malfunction was discovered in its systems. Salt from seawater had penetrated the bearings of the drives, leading to flooding and engine shutdown. The ship was literally helpless, slowly drifting between the canal walls, like a lost boat at sea. Meanwhile, tugs rushed to its aid, trying to prevent a collision with the concrete walls and avoid a tragedy. At the same moment, thousands of tourists gathered on the shores, filming what was happening with cameras and smartphones. Because this ship, built with the most advanced technologies and designed to be radar invisible, became the most observed vessel on the entire planet. Looking a bit further into history, at the turn of the 20th century, the U.S. Navy began to focus on Arleigh Burke-class destroyers. These ships became a symbol of the strength and technological superiority of the U.S. Navy. Their design emerged in the final years of the Cold War. These destroyers combined powerful radar, missile defense systems, and anti-submarine complexes, all housed within a sturdy, fully steel hull. Even after the collapse of the Soviet Union, these ships continued to evolve and take on new missions. They proved their combat capabilities in the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Western Pacific Ocean, where they launched missiles in combat conditions, intercepted ballistic threats, and escorted aircraft carriers through dangerous and hostile waters. As the geopolitical situation began to change and new challenges and threats appeared near the coastlines, strategists started to consider the need for new types of ships. Part 2 of 9. Due to the increasing threats from coastal missile systems, urban shorelines, and the need to support ground forces as well as strike inland areas, it became clear that future combat ships must be capable of operating close to enemy shores. They needed to approach coastlines quickly and stealthily, avoiding radar detection and defending against concentrated attacks from small, fast vessels that could appear out of nowhere. In the late 1990s, specialists and strategists launched a program called DD-21, 21st Century Land Attack Destroyer. This project envisioned creating a ship larger and more powerful than the Arleigh Burke, yet much harder to detect. The new vessel was planned to be equipped with advanced 155mm guns with long-range firing capabilities to engage targets at great distances. As the program developed, especially after the turn of the millennium and a comprehensive review of defense policy, its concept expanded. It became important to integrate several innovations: stealth, formidable firepower, and modern electronic systems, all on a single ship. Additional plans included developing a fully electric propulsion system capable of generating sufficient power. Each of these combat ships had a distinctive shape that set them apart from other vessels. Their hulls featured inward-sloping sides positioned above the waterline, creating what was known as a tumble-home profile, a design once used on early 20th century ships. This configuration was originally intended to help radio waves emitted by radar to pass more easily to the sides without reflecting back. The idea became relevant again because it reduced the vessel's radar visibility. The sharp, wave-cutting bow was specifically designed to cut through the sea smoothly, reducing spray in the wake that could reveal its position. The superstructure, comprising the bridge and command center, was constructed from modern composite materials covered with flat, inclined panels. These panels served not only for protection, but also to reflect radio waves, making the ship less detectable by radar. All masts and antennas were carefully concealed behind special screens, without protruding parts that could catch or reflect radio signals. Even the heat dissipation from the engines was arranged to prevent exhaust gases or thermal signatures from giving away the ship's location. The entire machinery and equipment were isolated and cooled to minimize vibrations that could be noticeable to adversaries. As a result of this carefully designed and complex system, the combat ship with a displacement of about 15,000 tons appeared on the enemy's radar as a small fishing boat, so inconspicuous and difficult to identify in terms of its true size. The forward part of the ship was armed with two powerful 155mm systems, so-called advanced artillery complexes, each designed to fire special shells. These shells, called long-range combat shells, were rocket-propelled and GPS-guided, allowing them to reach targets at over 80 nautical miles. Such shells could deliver precise strikes on important objects, command posts, air defense systems, or artillery batteries located far behind the front lines, providing support to ground forces through accurate and sustained bombardment. Compared to cruise missiles, these shells could be fired much more frequently during a single mission and were significantly cheaper, enabling the ship to strike multiple targets without constantly replenishing missile supplies. Along the sides of the vessel were 80 vertical launch system cells, Module 87, capable of launching different types of missiles. Among them were Tomahawks, ground attack missiles, and SM-2 and SM-6 missiles intended for air defense. Additionally, the ship was equipped with two automatic 30mm guns designed for close combat against small high-speed vessels and boats. Inside the hull was a powerful power supply system capable of generating up to 78 megawatts of electricity. This energy powered not only the entire ship's functions, but also the operation of weapons, communication, and navigation systems. The ship's automation was so advanced that the crew was reduced to approximately 140 personnel, significantly fewer than on similar combat vessels. The ship also featured a helicopter deck in a closed hangar capable of accommodating two M100 helicopters or one heavy transport helicopter. At the stern was a special compartment designed for launching small boats and conducting special operations, both for landing troops and other tasks. Every element of the design was created to ensure Part 4 of 9. It was initially assumed that the majority of the funding would be allocated to the construction of Zumwalt-class destroyers, which at that time were in active production and had already proven themselves in combat conditions. However, after analysis, it became clear that it would be more financially advantageous to increase the production volume of proven and already existing ships of another class. Arleigh Burke-type destroyers. These ships, having withstood the test of time and combat operations, could be built in larger numbers at a lower cost, significantly reducing the overall expenses for fleet modernization. In July of the same year, it was officially announced that the procurement plan for Zumwalt destroyers was reduced from 32 units to just 2 ships. Later, it was decided to add one more ship to these 2, bringing the total to 3 ships of this type. This decision caused a substantial increase in the cost of individual components, especially unique systems designed to provide the latest technologies and combat capabilities for the ship. As a result, by the time the Zumwalt ship was officially christened, bearing the name USS Zumwalt, on October 28, 2013, its cost had already exceeded $4 billion per vessel. This made it the most expensive and simultaneously the largest destroyer ever built for the country's naval forces. By that time, many key technologies embedded in the ship's design had not yet been fully developed and tested. Some of them faced uncertainties regarding their future, adding complexity to the project's completion. Despite these difficulties and delays, by the end of 2005, after years of design work, numerous budget recalculations, and construction setbacks, Zumwalt was finally ready to set sail. In December, on a gray and overcast morning, the ship left the Bath Iron Works shipyard for the first time, independently under its own power. It was prepared to undergo a series of sea trials, with the cold Atlantic Ocean stretching out before it, enticing with its vastness. On the command bridge in the Combat Information Center, displays lit up. The radar and navigation systems began their operation. At that moment, small teams of navigators stationed on the bridge carefully monitored the ship's course, while the engines operated smoothly and quietly, providing its electrical system, which replaced traditional steam turbines. All activities aboard the ship, every turn, acceleration, system check, were meticulously recorded in logs so that specialists and experts could analyze the performance of each component. The first phase of testing took place in the first half of December. During this time off the northeastern coast of the United States, near the coast of Maine, the ship underwent builder's trials, assessing its combat readiness and technical condition. One day in a calm setting, a help call was received. A nearby fishing boat reported that its captain was suffering from severe chest pain and urgently needed evacuation. Zumwalt, being nearby, quickly assessed the situation and set course for the scene, navigating through cold gray waves and sea fog. Soon it approached the fishing vessel, whose crew was met with assistance and with the help of a specialized inflatable boat, rigid noise type. The Zumwalt crew swiftly reached the injured person. Within minutes, the fisherman was carefully lifted and transported aboard the ship, where he was immediately placed in a specially equipped medical facility. There, specialists and medics began providing first aid to stabilize his condition and prepare him for further transportation. The ship was named after its creator and his significant reforms as the commander of the naval forces. This individual was the driving force behind the fleet's renewal and modernization, aiming to make it more modern and inclusive. On this important day, the ship's first commander, Captain James Kirk, was present on the deck, standing alongside part of the crew as the national anthem was played. After a brief ceremony, the ship officially joined the active fleet. At that moment, everyone present, sailors, officers, and guests, broke into photographs and applause echoed across the platform. The crew in command of USS Zumwalt were ready to begin service, and for those who saw it that day, this ship represented the future of the American fleet. It was sleek, advanced, and fully prepared to perform its missions. Even its commander, Captain James A. Kirk, expressed confidence that day. Zumwalt today is a technological marvel. When it is deployed, our country will have a multi-mission destroyer with stealth and combat power capable of handling the most complex tasks. However, within naval circles, unresolved issues remained, which did not disappear after the ship's first deployment at sea. Less than a month after Zumwalt joined the fleet, attention focused on its most distinctive feature: two 155mm gun systems located at the bow. These systems were built around specially designed projectiles, so-called long-range land attack projectiles, or long-range munitions for land attack purposes. Initially, these guns were considered the ship's hallmark, as they used missile-supported guided shells capable of firing at significant distances and providing sustained support on the battlefield. They were conceived as an affordable alternative to expensive missiles and were intended to allow the ship to perform a wide range of tasks. However, by the autumn months of 2016, it became clear that the promises associated with this system did not match reality. The cost of ammunition for these guns, custom-made for a specific order, was calculated based on mass production for an entire fleet of 32 ships. But at that time, only 3 ships were in service, and the ammunition order had been reduced to a negligible fraction of the original amount. This situation caused the price per shell to soar to nearly $800,000, an amount comparable to the cost of a Tomahawk cruise missile, which has greater range and a more powerful warhead. For a system initially designed as an economical and versatile missile option, such a price discrepancy became obvious and difficult to manage. In November 2016, the naval authorities decided to cease production of long-range shells for the long-range land attack projectile system. This meant that its 2 gun mounts were left without ammunition, and it was already impossible to complete all testing and checks after the ship's shakedown, its initial commissioning, before the decision. In the same month when the news of the program's termination became known, the Zumwalt, its commander Kirk, and a crew of 140 began their first combat transit to the new home port in San Diego. The route passed through the Panama Canal, one of the busiest and most complex waterways, requiring precise control of engines and steering mechanisms. On November 21, 2016, while passing through the canal, the cooling system developed a leak and salt water seeped into the main engine bearings. As a result, the propulsion units overheated and failed. The sudden loss of propulsion left the Zumwalt stranded in one of the narrowest and most treacherous straits. After being towed, the ship was brought to the Balboa port on the Pacific entrance to the Panama Canal. There, naval specialists and civilian engineers worked to determine the cause of the failure and develop a plan for its repair. During the repairs, it was even necessary to partially disassemble part of the engine system to understand exactly what the problem was. By the end of that year, roughly 30 days after the ship was commissioned, it had hardly begun full service. Within this short period, it had already suffered two serious setbacks. For the naval forces, these events served as stark warnings of how dangerous it was to implement so many new technologies on a single ship simultaneously. While the Zumwalt remained in Balboa for repairs, the other ships of its class were still under construction. The second of them, the ship named Michael Mansour, was launched about 5 months earlier and was now docked at the Bet Earwood shipyard, where it was being outfitted. Not all combat systems had yet been fully installed on it. The third ship, bearing the name Lyndon B. Johnson, had not yet begun laying its keel, meaning its construction was just starting. Newspaper headlines and analytical articles on defense topics were filled with sharp comparisons and accusations. They claimed that this was a $4 billion destroyer that had failed to prepare combat munitions for its main guns. Politicians demanded explanations, questioning the cost of the project and why the Navy accepted the ship into service if its primary armament was unready for use. Experts outside the Navy also participated in the criticism. They pointed out that the program to develop this ship included the most advanced systems, from the hull design to the electric motors, all integrated into a single complex. Such an approach increased the risk of delays and unexpected costs. Some wondered how stable the hull form, with its so-called tumble-home shape, an important aspect of its stealth, would be in rough sea conditions compared to conventional designs. One journalist, Sebastian Roblin, wrote, "Traditional warships were built for specific missions, but Zumwalt is a ship that seems to be searching for its mission." At the time, 3 large destroyers, either in service or recently transferred to the fleet, lacked a clear role within existing tactical schemes. The destroyer equipped with the advanced gun system was intended to support amphibious operations, such as landing Marines on shore or supporting land-based military units. However, due to the absence of available munitions for this weapon, its role quickly disappeared. In December 2017, the Navy officially re-evaluated the tasks of the Zumwalt-class ships. These expensive and essentially useless vessels were now supposed to become powerful ships for open ocean combat, designed to strike enemy ships and conduct long-range missile attacks on important targets. This decision clearly indicated that the fleet's strategic focus was shifting again. While the U.S. was expanding its forces, China was rapidly building a modern navy. Its fleet included new destroyers, cruisers, and even aircraft carriers. Land-based missile systems capable of threatening American ships even at great distances in the Western Pacific were being developed to support this formidable fleet. In case of conflict, for example, over Taiwan or in the South China Sea, American ships would have to operate far from the coast to survive. But at the same time, they needed to be capable of striking important targets within conflict zones. These requirements perfectly aligned with the development of the conventional rapid strike weapon program, a joint effort between the Army and the Navy. For the naval forces, finding a suitable platform for new high-tech weapons became one of the top priorities. In this context, Zumwalt-class ships, with their enormous electrical power and spacious open deck, were considered the most suitable option. Initially, engineers attempted to install hypersonic weapons on these ships without removing the existing 150mm guns. However, as further research progressed, it became clear that the most rational solution was to replace at least one of the artillery systems with missile complexes. In March 2022, it was publicly announced that a plan had been adopted. The Zumwalt, Michael Mansour, and Lyndon B. Johnson ships would receive a full battery of CPS missile systems at the bow. It was expected that the first such installations would appear on the ships in the coming years, but work began earlier than many had anticipated. This step allowed the Zumwalt-class ships to undertake missions best suited to their capabilities. Hypersonic weapons enabled rapid strikes against key targets, command centers, missile launch bases, and enemy ships in port. Thanks to speeds exceeding 5 Mach in a range of over 1,500 miles, these ships could remain outside the reach of most enemy systems. Performing tasks both as part of groups of warships and independently, they became a threat to high-value targets across the Pacific Ocean. In 2024, work began at the Ingalls shipbuilding yard to dismantle the forward section of the Zumwalt, removing its 100mm artillery mount designed for long-range shore bombardment. In its place, 4 large missile launch containers were installed, each capable of holding 3 hypersonic, conventional prime strike missiles. As a result, after the modernization was completed, the ship was to be armed with 12 missiles capable of striking targets over 1,500 miles away and reaching speeds above 5 Mach. This project was confirmed in the January report by the American news agency USNI News, which stated that the work was nearly finished. Meanwhile, the second ship of this class, Michael Mansour, was preparing for its long-range deployment to the Western Pacific. It continued to carry its original 2 advanced gun system complexes, but its future was clearly defined. After returning from the deployment, it would also replace its outdated guns with hypersonic missile systems. According to the plan, the third ship, Lyndon B. Johnson, also underwent the integration of new systems. In the summer of 2025, the Maishal Mansour was spotted at Yokosuka port in Japan. This visit was no coincidence. The ship was preparing to take on a new role in the region as part of the American strategy to strengthen its presence in key points of the Pacific region. Soon, the Zumwalt, one of the most modern and powerful ships, could be positioned near potential hotspots. In the future, the presence of hypersonic weapons on such ships meant that the ability to deliver a rapid strike was already within reach. It is expected that by the late 2020s, all 3 Zumwalt-class ships will be equipped with CPS missile systems and capable of deploying them in combat conditions. After many years filled with budget overruns, technical difficulties, and doubts about their necessity, the Zumwalt-class ships finally found their true purpose, which matched their scale and capabilities.